Hello, class. We're back for class session number 5 and talk about in this session assessment, evaluation, and challenges to Christian education. And as we move towards the end of this particular class and move to the final project for this class, the questions are about evaluation and assessment, for that matter, is how are we doing? This is the question that's raised. What is happening in our educational ministries? Later I will refer to in our resource, the Department of Christian Education resource, how to do a new thing in Christian education, some assessment questions that we might want to ask. It might be important, it is important that we assess and evaluate what we're doing. Are we accomplishing what we hope to? Of course, first of all, we got to know what we hope for. And we'll talk about that from the sense of mission statement, what's the vision of the department or the Board of Christian Education, Christian Education Ministry in your church. What is the vision? What do we hope for? And how are things working? There's another question, and what needs to be changed? I think with those 4 questions, we really get a gauge of what is happening in our particular setting or our context. And I think I raised some questions in the discussion questions that your context may be regional, maybe district, maybe Episcopal. I know these questions apply in all situations, whether it's local, district, local, regional, or Episcopal. And in Ty's book, she talks about ongoing assessment and evaluation, assessment being the descriptive task, really trying to see what's really going on in our particular situation and describing that situation. Evaluation is fixing value and worth of our particular Christian education work that we're doing. Believe me, these things are extremely important. Even on my level, as a connectional level, I have to make some assessments and evaluations, and out of those assessments and evaluations, I have to make some decisions, which I have been doing each quadrennium. I've been making some decisions based on assessment and evaluation, asking questions. What's the importance of assessment and evaluation? It's just what I just said. It helps make decisions. We often have to make some decisions, and unfortunately, we often don't make decisions. We allow things just to continue as they are without making any decisions about what needs to be done in order to make it happen, to make what we want it to happen. It helps make changes, and that's an important ingredient there. That's the importance of assessment and evaluation. There's some things that we're doing that may need to change, and I would venture to say that all of us could find places where we can make some changes, but unless we raise some questions and assess some things and evaluate some things, we'll never make the changes. We'll just continue and do things as business as usual. And the old saying is if you keep on doing, it is true, if you keep on doing the same thing the way you've always done it, you can probably expect the same results. And then lastly, we won't want to forget, it helps us celebrate. We have some things, some successes, some good things that happen, some joys that we need to celebrate that are taking place, and that's something to really celebrate. This past February, just a few days ago, weeks ago now, we celebrated in a way in our newsletter the fact that we considered, as we assessed and evaluated what we've done since last February, we've been able to maintain a web page and newsletter presence for a year, and almost without exception, to produce a newsletter on the first day of the month, and not without struggle, but certainly it has taken place. So we celebrate, and it's just the importance of this. And then the principles of assessment evaluation. Much of this is what we're talking about today is found in our reading, so I won't spend a lot of time with this particular aspect of this. You do it in partnership. You use a variety of approaches, and you gather as much as information as possible, and you share the findings and keep it in perspective. I don't want to say a word about sharing the findings. It wouldn't do us much good to evaluate our situation, our Christian education in our local church, and then not share that. It would be a shame if the director or the assistant director did this great work of assessing and evaluating and never shared it with the board. And then it would be the same problem if the board did the assessing and never shared it with the rest of the church through church conference or other means that allows us to share with the rest of the conference, with the rest of the church or the remaining part of the church. It's important to share. And then slide 6, Mckinney, you've heard me mention her before, Laura Ellen Mckinney, who writes the book African American Christian Education, our Christian Education in the African American Church. She says why we make assessments and why we assess things is that we learn about the effectiveness of our Christian education program. We oftentimes, it's easy for us to pat ourselves on the back and say we're doing great work and all these kinds of things. But assessment lets us to really see if we're effective in what we're doing. And part of that effectivity comes is that are we making strides in the direction that we had hoped for? A picture of who is being reached. Oh, what a marvelous question to ask. And who's being reached with our Christian education program? Are the people intended to be reached? Are they being reached? Is it our youth? Is our focus on our seniors, adults? Where is our focus? And are those people being reached? And how is the church's Christian education program or the Christian education ministry meeting the church's mission? What is the church's mission? If anybody in the local church ought to know without any hesitation what the church's mission is, then it should be those people who are workers in Christian education, because Christian education also has a mission, and its program, or its program is to try to feed out of, its objectives come out of, its understanding of who it is comes out of what the church's mission is. For instance, let me just say, if the church's mission is to make disciples, then what is Christian education doing to make disciples? Is our program, a Christian education program, just fed around trips and activities and programs like Mother's Day and Father's Day and those other kind of programs, taking our children to Six Flags and all those kinds of things? Or is it about making disciples? What gives evidence? What is the evidence that it is about what the church's mission is about? And then determines the satisfaction of it also helps to determine the satisfaction of the congregation as to what the department or the Board of Christian Education is presenting and giving to the church. It's an important part to assess what's going on in our local church. And then assessment strategies. You can do it yourself. You can hire a consultant. You can seek a volunteer. And you can identify church experts. And you can look at our resource, how to do a new thing. It might help. And with that, I'm going to stop this portion of this of the lecture and pick up the second part of it. Pick up from here in the second part. I will look forward to talking to you a little more about assessment and evaluation in part 2 of this lecture.